Hello family, my name is Chris, I am your home gamer dad, and today we'll be taking a look at a game that combines the speed of a race, the accuracy of a shooting game, and the luck of digging through a deck of cards as we work to claim victory over our opponents. Today, let's talk about Sonic Speed Battle from Kess Entertainment. This is a 2 to 4 player game, ages 8 and up, and each one of the games when you play it lasts roughly 30 minutes. To be honest with you, on a lower player count, those games go a lot faster, but this game really shines at what it does and what it's supposed to do at the higher player count. I kind of wish that it went almost to 6 player as well, because I could have seen this being an awesome party game with the 3 different games that are made within this box. This, of course, also is, if you're good and know your Sonic history of video games and everything, is based off of Sonic Adventure Battle 2, which you would find on the Dreamcast or the GameCube or whatever. This is like the first introduction of Shadow and a whole ton of other characters from the Sonic the Hedgehog series. This itself houses 24 different characters. I think I didn't know 4 of them when I first looked into it. Just keep in mind, though, that each one of the games in there, again, there are 3, has 8 characters tied to it. So you can't use 24 characters for each one of the games. You just kind of pick one that's associated with whatever game that you are playing as. This game was made by Sonic fans, and it shines through completely. You can tell that there's a lot of care and a lot of thought that went into each one of these characters in terms of which ones you can use for which one of the game modes, what their special abilities are, things along that way. So it's a really cool love letter to the series, and even though it's not this giant, large epic that maybe some people wanted or whatever, the fact that it's 3 fun games all mashed into one is really cool in its own right. You don't have to play the games in any particular order. You can just go and play them one by one individually in order to get a good handle of what each game does. And then there's actually a competition mode as well that the instruction manual talks about, where everybody continuously plays each one of the games one at a time. You can do it randomly or you can select it otherwise. And the first player to win each one of the mini games once is the winner. And I think that is awesome. Again, the only thing I really, really wish about this game was that it was a higher player count. I would have so brought this to a party or something like that. 6 players on this would have been fantastic and would have been wild for each one of the game modes. But as we talk about those, why don't we go ahead and head down to the table, so this way I can show you exactly what comes within the box, what you're expected, of course go through the instruction manual and everything, and then talk about each one of the game modes individually, how they play, what to expect from them, and then how I was able to kind of get my own thoughts together about the overall aspect of Sonic Speed Battle. All right, so what you see here is literally everything. My other reviews that I've done through here, I've only put a few pieces out in front of the camera in order to get an idea of what's in the box. This is everything that comes in the box. You have yourself a 48 deck, I believe. Yeah, 48 card deck right here that's actually made up of 4 different symbols, all with different numbers on them. You have your shoes. The numbers are always 1 to 3. So you have your shoes, your rings, your bumpers, and your invincibility items of sorts. So these 4 items, all with numbers from 1 to 3, are all mixed in within this 48 card deck. You have a few different tokens right here. These are for the shooting game, and then these are what you would win if you win a particular game in that competition mode I talked about. This is for the speed battle, this is for the shooting game, this is for the emerald hunt, and here are your characters. My goodness, look at how many there are. Of course, you have your famous characters, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and this is where they are in terms of their game. So this entire top row are the characters that you would play as for the running game. These are the ones that you would play for the shooting game. These are the ones that you would play for the treasure hunt game. And again, I knew most of these already. I remember Jet, Wave I was unfamiliar with, Storm I'm unfamiliar with. Marine, I don't know who this is. I kind of wish that you were Styx from Adventure Sonic Boom. Not that you would, because you wouldn't be in that video game, but I like Styx. Styx reminds me, Styx is Ica from Skies of Arcadia, so that's amazing. Tikal, just so many different characters that you can play as. And again, if you're playing, a 2 to 4 player game, whoever you choose, so say you're playing a 4-player game, you would choose 4 players, and then on the back of each one of these cards is a reference card that actually talks about a brief idea of what you're doing for each turn for each one of the games, as well as a quick description for each one of the items whenever you play them. These items that you see here are called suits. But before we dive into anything else, let's take a look at the instruction manual for Sonic Speed Battle. It is 24 pages long, but it is also broken up into your different games. So you have your action race right here, which covers a few pages. Your next game is your shooting battle, as you can see right here. And then after you flip a few more pages and talk about your characters, you have your treasure hunt. And then once you finish going through all that, you have your team battle on the back here that talks about going through each one of the game modes and how it's selected and things along that ways. The instruction manual isn't so bad. I do enjoy the fact that each one of the games is divided into its own section. So depending on which one you're going through, you don't have to flip through the entire page for any particular rules. The problem I have with it is some of it is a little bit too... It doesn't explain things very well in certain aspects. Like, we were able to get my buddy who came over, and he was actually here when I got this, which was awesome. So we were learning it together on the fly. It took us like a turn or two, or I'm sorry, a game or two of each one in order to really kind of figure out what you got to do in each one. Action Race wasn't so bad. We had a good idea of how to do that. It was the first time ever playing, and this is a game that you definitely need to try in order to really gain the concepts of what each thing does. But we were able to get this pretty good. I was able to understand the homing attack fairly well, and then just going through there and seeing who won. It's funny because like he was in last place for most of this race, did a few homing attacks, and he actually ended up winning the race, which was awesome. And then it goes over each one of the characters as well. A thing to also note with this is that even though the cards you have give you a basic of what each one of the suits do, the instruction manual goes into a lot more detail. So if you're ever playing, don't have this too far out of way because you're going to need to know what each one of the suits does for a little bit more detail. Shooting battle was the easiest one of them all to figure it out by far. The special weapon mechanic for this was a little strange, but once we figured it out, man, that was really cool too. The biggest thing about this, I'm going to mention it later, is remember nothing activates unless you actually deal damage. That was a big rule that we had to make sure to get through a little bit later. But this was a lot of fun. This was cool in order to be able to blast back and forth. Again, with something like this, so much more fun with multiple people. It was just the two of us, so we knew who our targets were, but if you had like 3 or 4 people, it would have been so much better, all the characters. And then the treasure hunt was the one that I think was, I was not a big fan of how the instructions were written on this. It wasn't really clear about exactly what your radar points were and everything. And one of the items were very confusing. And it took us a while to realize what it meant by these numbers here on the shards. Once we figured it out, and once I tell you going through this, then it makes so much more sense, and it's really fun. It's really good. This part of the instruction manual did not go over very well with us. Once it clicked in our head about what it is we needed to do, the game was a lot more enjoyable. So I just wanted to kind of point that out regardless of anything before I start really diving into each one of the games. But our favorite thing that we liked is how the team battle works. And again, that's playing all 3 games, you would flip over one of the cards and you would look at whatever number was on it. So in this case, we would play the action race, shuffle this back into the main deck, and then play through that. Whoever wins it would get the blue chow. Then we'd either draw again randomly to play the shooting or treasure hunt game, and whoever wins those would get the other chow, and whoever gets all 3 chows wins, which is really cool. So I love it. This is a great way, again, to extend the gameplay of all 3 games at once, because you may be playing the same game multiple times in a row, giving all other players chances in order to win. But otherwise it's just so much fun. And it's really cool how you have 3 different games off of one really 48 card deck. Which, speaking of which, why don't we go ahead and just kind of talk about each one of the games individually. I'm going to grab these guys, kind of move them off screen for right now. This is the Treasure Hunt Crew. These cards are needed for your shooting gallery. These cards are needed for your treasure hunts. Let's talk about the speed race right now, and then what you would need to know and that you need to do in order to win a speed race. All right, so just for the sake of argument, we have 3 players right here. We'll have Blaze, we'll have Amy as the second player, and we'll have Shadow as the third, just because. And again, You have 3 players, so that means you can just flip these over and give each one of the 3 players a reference card right here about what they would need to do. Basically, your goal is to race to 10 points. You have 2 actions that you can do on your turn, which is race, placing a card face down, or spinning, which is discarding all your cards and drawing 5 more. And then it gives a brief description about what each one of the items do. So if we have everybody kind of spread out right here, let me grab this. Every player would get a set of 5 cards that they would play. You would keep the main deck to the side as well. And generally speaking, the lead player, when you're actually reading the instructions, is who's ever ahead in the race. However, in this situation, because no one has started running around the race yet, the one with the lowest number is considered the lead player. What they would do is they would take one of their cards, they would pick any one of their cards, and they would put it in the center face down. I actually don't know why that matters that the lead player puts this down first, because it really, everyone's revealing the same cards at the same time. So everybody would place a card face down, and then you would say 1, 2, 3, and boom, everyone would flip their cards face up. In this situation, you would have all 3 numbers then compare. So this is the race action, putting down your cards and then flipping them all face up. If your number is original, like you are not matching your number with any other character on the field, then you would score 1 point. So you would actually move these over to show how far you are within the race. Everything else goes away. No one actually draws up anything at this point because this represents how fast you are going. Everyone's still going at the same time. And as you can see, I started with Amy. It really doesn't matter which order you do things in. And you just kind of keep going from there. That's oddly enough the same result. We're just going to go again until I find what I'm looking for. 1, 2, okay, perfect. All right, so Blaze has right now, so everyone's at 2 technically at this point. Blaze has put down a ring with a 1, a bumper with a 2, and the invincibility with a 2. Blaze would have activated first, and basically what the way these are is, I didn't do this in the first round, but once you put down your cards and everything flips over, simultaneously each one of the suits, as I call them, would activate. And just to kind of give you an idea what they do in here, anyone with a suit, the other players would have to discard a card from hand. I have the instruction manual over here just so I know what's going on. The invincibility means that you're immune from the ring attacks. The bumper would mean you would draw 2 cards, so Shadow would actually get 2 cards in his hand. And the speed boost is actually an additional score. So if you put down a shoe and you scored on it, you would gain an additional point for that. So I think somebody else put a shoe down earlier. It doesn't really matter. It's just kind of an example this way. But Blaze would activate here. Everyone would just discard a card. Well, no, Amy wouldn't because she's blocked by the invincible. Just throw that one away, whatever it may be. Now Blaze scores 1. Because Shadow and Amy have matched, they are now doing a homing attack. The way a homing attack works is starting with the lead player. They look through their hands of cards and they need to play a card on top of this with the same numerical value. So Shadow can put this 2 down. Now it is Amy's turn because she's part of the homing attack as well. She's going to look. She has a 2. So she's going to put it down. Shadow's going to look again. Oh, he has a 2 as well. He's going to put it down. Amy does not. You don't have to put a card down. You can choose not to. But as soon as you don't put a card down, you are out of the attack and have moved off of the homing attack board. I called this the catch-up mechanic because generally speaking, because the lead player goes first, they're most likely going to be out before anybody else, and who's ever in last place would be able to move up a little bit more. In this situation, Amy ended up losing, so she got hit by the homing attack. Because Shadow won it, he scores 1 point on his, so we'll make him this, so he'll be at 3, plus 1 for every person that participated in the homing attack. So if Blaze was part of it, and Amy, he would have gained 2 additional points, but instead, he just gains 1. So now he is in the lead with a speed of 4 going through this, as opposed to Blaze, who is 3, and Amy, who is 2. And that's pretty much exactly how you would play this. You would keep going. Now, if you happen, it's not going to matter for Shadow, because he has a special ability, but say Blaze had no cards in her hand. She would then have to spin, which is pretty much using a turn to draw up to 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But Shadow and Amy would still be able to race. They would go, they would flip their cards, and they were both invincible from everything. It doesn't matter, but then they would each move up 1 as well. Play will continue like this, going through the entire deck, drawing cards, playing cards, comparing numbers. You're just looking for numbers that match to start those homing attacks. Doesn't matter if one number is higher or lower than the other. So long as the numbers match, that goes into a homing attack. And then that's going to be what pushes you along the track even further. And as before, the first one to reach 10 points is the winner. And as far as characters that you will find within the speed game, you have Sonic, you have Shadow, Metal Sonic, Blaze, Silver, Amy, Jet, and SBL. I figured I'd go with their actual numerical order there. And then we will check out the next game. The next game is a shooting battle where you have to pay attention to the number in the upper left-hand corner because that's where it actually matters for this one. The highest number wins, but also ties mean that both players take a damage. Setting up here, we have a 3-player game against Tails, Dr. Eggman, and Charmy within the shooting game. The weird thing that we had a little problem with was that the fact that these are you have 4 different shootings, which represents 4 different players. And in the rulebook, you can choose any one of the players to fire as. These should have been different colors. Like, as far as I can tell from reading through it, at least I missed it, this is not a team event. You would think that these having the same colors, these guys would be on the same team as compared to like Charmy and somebody else. But really, it's a free-for-all in this game. So I really wish that they had given 4 different colors of these shooting things instead of 2 of the same and 2 of the same, because that's a really confusing thing to go through. As I was looking for it to mention team, and it never did. What is really cool is that this is the 3 to 4 player sides with 6 health apiece. If you have a 2-player, you each would have 8. So that's pretty cool on how the 2-player is a little bit longer. So the main thing that happens is that whoever's turn it is, say Tails goes first. First thing he's going to do is draw a card. And again, just as I mentioned before, you always give the opposite side of a character not being used to the players. So this way they know what it is they're doing. Here's also a thing where it's different. The shooting battle on the side says duel or panic, showing your 2 options that you're going to do. However, in the book, there is a phase before this that means you draw a card. That's not on the card, so just pay attention to that as you're going through, because again, in the book it says on your turn, 1, draw a card, and then you either duel or panic. Dueling is the main thing that's going to happen, and it's pretty much going to be whoever's active turns is going to pick any one of the other players in order to duel them. The active player would then choose a card and place it face down, facing towards their opponent, where their opponent would then pick a card and place it face down. I'm just taking randomly for the sake of this example, but really this is something you would want to strategize because, as I mentioned before, they're going to flip over at the same time and fire at each other. Whoever has the highest number hits the other person doing a damage, and then they activate their suit. So in this example, Dr. Eggman would hit Tails. It doesn't matter what the difference between the numbers are. He still is only going to hit him for 1 hit. And then his ring would activate, which would be triggering his special weapon. In this game, if a shoe, this is where you, as you fire a special weapon. In this game, if you hit somebody with your shoe, so you have a shoe token and then manage to hit somebody, you can then charge your special weapon, which means you are able to lay a card next to your board here. If you then manage to hit your opponent with a ring, you would flip this over and you would deal additional damage to your opponent equal to the number on the ring. Good to use if you have a 3 doing 3 massive damage, but what are the chances of you being able to hit them otherwise, or how long is it going to be before they knock you down to 0? So once again, the shoe is a charged special weapon. So long as you do damage to your opponent, you're able to take any card from your hand and put it face down here. The ring, once it does damage, triggers your special weapon, flipping it over, doing that damage. In addition to that, the spring will enable you to draw 2 cards. And of course, the invincibility means that you are invincible from a duel, so you would take no damage. And remember, the suit effects only activate if you do damage. So if I had actually had this down, I1 would not have taken any damage, or Tails wouldn't have taken any damage, and then Eggman would not have triggered his ring should he have had a special, because he technically didn't do any damage to Tails. At the end of it, Tails would then draw a card, and then that's going to be the end of Tails' turn, and it would move on to somebody else. Now, a panic draw is that if your hand is full of like really bad cards, or you only maybe have like a few left, say I had like this, all ones in Tails' hand, and he knows that Robotnik is like, has been powering up and ready, and he has like a thing here, so he knows this has got to be a pretty big card. You would discard all of your cards in order to draw one, and that's whatever it is that you would end up playing. It would be face down, obviously. That was an unfortunate thing because it's a 1 for a ring, so it wouldn't have mattered, but he would have been able to at least throw something down in order to fight. But now he doesn't have very many cards in order to play going forward. He would still draw, and in the next turn, draw another card. But that's pretty much all it is. The shooting gallery is probably the easiest one of all the games in order to get through. And again, it just amazes me. I love the fact that here we are, 2 games, completely different. A racing game and a game that involves, like, it's not really rock, paper, scissors, but really outthinking your opponents about what you're going to play. All done in a simple deck of cards that the only thing that really changes are these cards and who you're playing as. Speaking of which, for this particular run, we do have Tails, we do have Dr. Eggman, we have Charmy the Bee, we have the Chaos Walker, right? Yeah, that's fun. Cream and Cheese, always fun to see them. We have Omega, Orbot, and Cubot, and Wave. These are your characters for the shooting game. The last game is called Treasure Hunt, and once I finally figured out how to play this game, it actually turns out to be probably the most involved game of all 3. You know, with the speed one, you're just kind of playing the cards and hoping to get like the best one out there. If you get the homing attack, pray that you have all the same numbers and just kind of bounce out that way. The shooting one is a little strategic, trying to figure out what it is that your opponent's playing. This one really has interactions between you and your opponents where whoever is digging through the deck the fastest in order to find the numbers they need in order to get 2 emerald shards is the winner. So the 3 characters I'm choosing for this example are Knuckles, Rouge, and Chaos. To set up, everybody gets their 3 cards. You have 3 different shards on the field that they are searching for. And what you have to kind of imagine in your mind is in front of each character are 3 invisible piles that are called radars. This is where you're playing your cards from. You would pick a card and you would put it in one of the radar spots. And I'll explain how to do that in a moment. But again, just remember, on the back of each of the characters that you're not using will give you an idea of what you're supposed to do on your turn. This is not a choice. You dig and then you search. So those are the actions you're doing every turn. When you dig, you can discard up to 3 cards from your hand, just right back to the discard pile, and then start digging through it. You're going to need that in order to find specific numbers on specific cards in order to claim the Chaos Shard. Sorry about that. Which I thought was really cool. Once again, I figured out what I needed to do. As far as the items go, make sure you have the book close to you because it goes into a lot more detail about what each one of the suits do whenever you play them. All right, so how would this work, for example? This is the first turn, so we're not going to be digging. So Knuckles would say he's not going to dig. He's going to look at his hand. He's going to see that he has 2 bumpers at a 2 and an invincible at a 2. He's going to look to see what shards down here are needed. The numbers down here correlate to the numbers in the upper corner. So the first thing he's going to do is he's going to take a spring and he's going to put it down in front of him. That's going to be 1 spot on his radar. When he plays the spring, its ability is he reveals the top card of the deck and he places it in the pile of the same suit. You're playing a lot of the same suit within this game. There is none, and he can't just put it in unless it actually exists, so it has to go to the discard pile. He then draws back up to 3, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And then that will be the end of his turn. Actually, no, he wouldn't have drawn up to 3 here. At the beginning of his next turn, he would choose to dig, and so he wouldn't have this, for example. At the beginning of his next turn, he could choose if he wishes to discard any or not, but that's when he would draw back up to 3. So it looks like at the beginning of your turn, once you do the dig action, you're drawing back up to 3 cards. You're still going to always have 3 cards in your head regardless. But Rouge goes, she looks at her card, she's going to put this one here, and then Chaos is going to go, and he's going to put this one here, which is actually really good for Chaos. So let's just kind of work with Chaos, for example, right here. Chaos has 3 shoes in his hand, each of them showing 1, 1, and 3. This shard right here requires a pile of the same suit that all have the numbers 1, 1, 3 in them. It doesn't matter what order this is in. He could have played the 3 first and then the 1 and then the 1. He could have played the 1 and then the 3 and then the 1. As soon as he has a pile of the same suit, because each spot in your radar can only hold 1 of the 4 suits, once he has a pile that matches exactly what one of the shards is, he gets the shard for himself. This then takes over 1 of his 3 radar spots. So he only has 2 more radars in order to find another shard. It also doesn't say it in the book that you would replace a shard afterwards. It kind of makes sense. Like, to me, that feels like a default duh, but some people may complain that it's actually not in the rule book that you would put this back on. So then what do each one of these cards do, for example? So let's actually use this, just going backwards a little bit. He played the shoe here. Whenever you play the shoe, you could then play another card from your hand of a different suit to another radar. So he could do this, and then maybe at one point he has 3 radars going, 1 for each one of these suits. He can then not play a 4th suit unless he discards the entire pile. So if he had 2 shoes here, but then this was the only card he has the option of wiping a pile of all the suits in order to start it with another suit. Another thing you got to remember is that you can't have 2 of the same suits in 2 different piles. So for example, he could not have this. It has to be a different suit for each one of the piles. So that's what the shoe do. The shoe allows you to play a second card, burning through it a little bit faster. The ring, as I mentioned before, reveals the top card of the main deck, and it goes to a pile. So if he got the ring and he flipped it over, hey, he got another one of these, which is an invincible, goes right there. The ring enables you to discard any card from another player's radar that's not an invincible. So if I had played the ring here, I can get rid of this bumper from Knuckles, basically setting him back further on his dig. And then, of course, you just always got to pay attention to whatever their special abilities are for each one of the characters. And that's what it is. Like, again, it took me a while. I thought for the longest time this was requiring certain suits in a row. Like I needed a row of 1, a row of 1, and a row of 2. No, it has to do with the numbers up in the upper left. I don't know why it took me so long in order to actually like ding that in my head on that's what these numbers represent. But once again, if you happen to have a pile of those exact numbers, I don't even know where that one went. Oh yeah, 113, you would gain the shard. First to have 2 shards wins this particular game. And then as we have done with all of the other ones, your characters that you're able to play as for the dig are Knuckles, Rouge, Chaos. We have Marine, which I'm not sure where she's from. I don't remember Sonic Adventure Battle in that way, so I don't know exactly what she does, if she's even in it, but she had to have come at some point during it. Big the Cat, Vector, Tikal, right? Is that how you pronounce her name, I believe? And then Storm. So many characters. It's so amazing. And there you have it, everyone. Sonic Speed Battle. You know, it still amazes me that they're able to get 3 very different games with completely different mechanics, different win conditions, different strategies, things like that, out of a single 48 card deck, which really, I guess, shouldn't be surprising because a standard deck of cards is 52 cards. You know, that's the one with your hearts, your diamonds, your spades, your clubs. Whereas here you have your invincibility spheres, your rings, your bumpers, and your super speed shoes. Super speed, yeah, say that 3 times fast, will you? So, I mean, it just requires a little bit for each one to really come out, but, you know, you have all the different characters that you can play as, you have all the different ways that you can play. It's just really cool the way that they were able to mash everything together and come up with a very fun party-style game that, again, I wish was a little bit more in the player count, but a lot of fun once you actually get each one of the games to the table and play them with, like, a crazy group of players. So let me know your opinion of Sonic Speed Battle down in the description section below. Is this kind of a game that you were expecting when you saw that Kess Entertainment was making this? Were you thinking that this is what you would find in it? 3 little mini games all packaged up into one, and then one where you're able to make this grand tournament as well, going through each one of them. If this is a game that you're actually thinking about picking up, or at least getting a little bit closer of a look at, you can always find them at your friendly local game stores. You can find them on Amazon. I should have a link for that down in the description section below. Barnes & Noble will have it, but also you'll be able to find this at Target. Yes, you can find this in Target end of January-ish, maybe early February, give or take. So definitely check out your target in order to see, just, if anything, pick it up, take a look at it, look on the back, see if it's something you're interested in, because you get a lot out of this game. I mean, even the box itself is a little bit big for the game. You have yourself just this little well right in the center here where everything fits, your cards and your tokens and everything. Box probably could have been a little bit smaller, but I think for its shelf, appearance and everything, I think it's a really good size. It's very eye-catching, especially for those that know Sonic and, of course, the game that this is based on. Thank you so much for joining me as we talked about Sonic Speed Battle. Once again, let me know your thoughts and everything down in the comments section below. If you would like to see more reviews like this, please leave some suggestions for me as well that you think that maybe I should take a look at. Just kind of go through, play a few times and give you my opinions of. I do have a few on the list already that I do want to tackle going forward within this year. But of course, the more the merrier, because hey, I love playing games. I love experiencing all new ones. And even though on the channel, I like to play for you guys specific games like this, I can't play by myself per se, but I'm still able to talk about it, bring awareness to it, and just kind of give you an idea of what it is that you would expect to find within this box. So in order not to miss any future Let's Talk About games or whatever, or any other game that I put out for you to enjoy, be sure you are subscribed to the Home Gamer Dad. If you wish to support the channel even further, there are ways to do that down in the description section below. But really, what it comes down to is your view, your like, your comments, sharing this video, and of course, letting me know what you think of this game goes a long way to helping the channel grow and for me to bring you more videos like this. Thank you all once again. Take care of yourselves and each other. We are family forever, gaming together. Doesn't matter which character you play as, whether it be the evil Robotnik or the Sly Rouge or Shadow the Hedgehog or one of our heroes, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, or anything in between, including some of the more obscure stuff. Sitting down at the table, having fun, a nice friendly competition will always bring everyone together to have a great time. And you get to earn your chows. You get to earn all the little chow tokens and everything along that ways. Man, I spent way too much time with chows back in the day with the original game of this. Oh boy, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. Till next time, you guys have a good one, and I'll see you later.